Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a new Levorius showcase series. My name is Liv, and in this new feature I will go through the entire Bioshock collection and present it from a game design and development perspective. This feature is the result of dozens of hours of research work beyond playing and recording the entire Bioshock collection, which includes Bioshock, Bioshock 2, plus its DLC Minerva's Den, and Bioshock Infinite plus the 2 Burial at Sea 2-episode DLC. While bad game design is immediately apparent to players, good design often gets overlooked. The game feels natural from the onset and it just clicks. Bioshock is an example of an excellent game design, often being taught at game development schools worldwide. In this mini-series we will explore what makes good game design using these games as an example. The Bioshock series is one of the most iconic series of modern gaming, beloved by critics and gamers alike, boasting some of the highest scores on platforms such as Metacritic. Beyond truly original game worlds and characters, the stories consistently touch upon philosophical and social concepts such as morality, freedom of choice, social inequality, and human nature in general. This is one of the trademarks of Ken Levine, the game director and creator of the series, throughout his company Irrational Games, which developed both the first Bioshock as well as the third entry in the series, Bioshock Infinite and its DLC, Burial at Sea. Game design in general is split into several parts. Let's call them out right here. Game world, storyline, characters, look and feel, content, and sound. I will go through each of these game design parts. In order to avoid any spoilers, however, I will go through the storyline and character parts in separate videos, which you can skip if you want to experience the story by yourself first, before coming back to them. First off, let's explore the origin of the Bioshock name itself. Ken Levine was the lead designer of a game called System Shock 2, released in 1999 and co-developed by Irrational Games and another legendary game studio, Looking Glass. This was probably the first game at the time combining a first-person shooter like Quake, the first Half-Life, the first Unreal game, with RPG concepts, character skill progression points, and weapon customization and upgrades. The concept allowed for never-before-seen interaction with the environment and fighting off enemies in your own style, so to speak. This concept was greatly expanded upon in the first Deus Ex game, released in 2000, developed by Looking Glass Studios as well. It was one of the first games in the so-called immersive simulation, immersive sim genre. This type of character progression system, complex environment interaction, and the shooter gameplay players had become accustomed to has proven to be a huge success in time. However, when System Shock 2 was initially released, it didn't sell all that well, despite its raving press reviews and gamer cult following. The development team behind Bioshock consisted of many System Shock 2 fans, however, and they wanted to make a similar game which, although they did not have the property rights to name it System Shock 3 outright, would include and expand upon many of the design concepts initially implemented in System Shock 2. Later on, the game would actually be marketing to publishers and gamers alike as the spiritual successor to System Shock 2. We could say then that the shock in Bioshock comes as a nod of the head to its ancestor. But what about the bio? While the game has undergone radical changes from its initial design, concepts and location, the name Bioshock stuck throughout the development process. For example, some early ideas regarding the location included a spaceship, nod of the head to System Shock 2, or an isolated island run by a cult named Serene Dawn, while the idea of a fully fledged underwater city called Rapture was still not in the cards. But the name Bioshock stuck throughout the development process, and according to the original design documents, the player character progression should include some way of genetically splicing their own DNA in order to adapt to the environment and be able to fend enemies off in various ways of the player's own choosing. For example, becoming immune to fire or electricity, and using these elements to your advantage and against your enemies in fights. So the bio here might refer to biological, so biological shock. As you know now, in the shipped version of the game, humans have discovered a way to alter their DNA by refining a naturally occurring substance called Adam into so-called plasmids, But this revolutionary technology proved to be their downfall due to the devastating effects the repeated, addictive use of Adam has on the human body and mind. An interesting fact is that the plane crash intro was added only a few weeks before the game's actual release, according to the director's commentary for Bioshock Remastered. The game underwent several playtests in the upcoming months before release, and the feedback has sometimes been brutal. Because the game introduces so many alien concepts to players, it is important to have the player relate to the game world and characters and understand how he or she got into an underwater city in the first place and actually care about what is going on in there. In retrospect, the intro is short but brilliant, establishing when and where the action takes place, 1960 and somewhere in the mid-Atlantic. And that the plane the main character Jake was in crashed into the ocean with Jake as the seemingly sole survivor. The dark ocean water and the flames from the plane crash contrast to look gorgeous even to this day, with many players back in 2007, myself included, thinking this was still a pre-rendered cutscene and not actually playable before realizing that they could move around. In order to speculate on why the underwater metropolis we spend our time in is called Rapture, let's see what rapt means. It means to basically be physically transported to heaven in order to meet God, a belief a Christian minority has, especially in the US. If you recall, there have been previous mentions of the Rapture event in the press some years back, where people would just disappear, leaving the clothes they are wearing behind lying on the floor. There's even a video game on this theme, Everybody's Gone to the Rapture, which I didn't have a chance to play myself, not yet. This concept of the Rapture event ties in nicely with the idea behind the book Atlas Shrugged by Ayn Rand. She was a Russian writer and philosopher who came to the United States in 1926 as she was 21 years old. Now, as Bolshevism and the collectivists were on the rise back home, encountering the at the time still old school capitalism in the US made quite a positive impression on her, and with Atlas Shrugged and her previous novel The Fountainhead, she laid the foundation for a political philosophy she called objectivism. This philosophy and these two books by Ayn Rand had a major influence on Ken Levine while developing the game and in the creative process of Rapture and its founder Andrew Ryan. Without going into further detail, as this is not the scope of the video, objectivism encourages laissez-faire capitalism, free markets in the sense detailed by Adam Smith, individualism, freedom of speech, the right to property, a so-called moral egoism while opposing altruism, all concepts very dear to Ryan, as we shall see by following the storyline. In Atlas Shrugged, a mysterious character called John Galt builds a city in Colorado, hidden from the eyes of the world, while attracting the world's greatest minds, industrialists, scientists, and artists, to move in that city and go on strike. That is, to stop putting their minds to work in the interest of a dystopian state and what the book calls moochers and parasites, that is, people trying to profit from the efforts of others while not putting in their share. So going on strike basically means disappearing from the world and being wrapped into John Galt's secret city. In Bioshock, Andrew Ryan is the impersonation of Rand's John Galt. Ryan is a brilliant electrical engineer and industrial magnate who has had Rapture built at the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean, sometimes during the Second World War. Only a select few would gain entrance to the city, and the game brilliantly introduces us to Ryan's elevator or bathysphere pitch before unveiling the city to us as we descend into it for the first time. In the next video we will continue focusing on the story, design and development of Bioshock. Want to keep watching? If so, would you kindly subscribe to the channel and hit the bell button to be notified when the next video in this mini-series will come up. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care. Bye bye.